Good evening and welcome to your 2052 Perfect League World Series coverage. I am your host, DRC, and we've got a juicy one tonight. We have got the Munster Muck Dogs versus the Pigeon Town Pigeons. And before this thing gets kicked off, in 17 minutes, we're going to take a look at the week that was in Perfect League and what to expect from these two teams here tonight. Before we get started, let's see who's hanging out in the chat. I see Chuck already there, making use of those sweet emotes we've got now. One thing I need to do is I need to clean up my images over here. I didn't know which teams were going to be in the World Series, so I had to prepare for all of them. So let's go ahead and get the Muck Dogs on one side. We'll have to delete Max Fire's Defenders out of here. We'll have to delete the Los Toros Durham team, and then we'll have to move Pigeon over here. All right, we are now ready to go. What's going on, Max? Sorry to see you fall in 7. That's a tough beat. Thanks, No Way 77 for the condolences. And, you know, frankly, we can start the broadcast right there. I got relegated. The Naperville Nomads have been relegated. And you know what? I deserved it. I did not play well enough this week. I did not put my players into position to be successful enough this week to stay in the league. And the league chewed me up and spit me out. And that's how it should be. You know, there's a requisite amount of micro management that you need to do in a given week. And you need to make sure you're running out a good lineup anyway. And on a couple different fronts, I failed. End up at 82 and 80. And outside the playoff picture looking in. And so it was a good lesson learned for me. Sometimes IRL gets in the way and you're not able to do everything you want to do. But I'm going to head down to DLL next week. And hopefully beat up those guys a little bit. Hopefully beat up those guys and then jump right back. But we'll see how that goes. All right. You guys did not come here to talk about the Naperville Nomads and to wallow in my sorrow. You came here to know what you're going to see tonight. And so let's start with the Munster Muck Dogs, who will have home field advantage. So what I like to do is I like to look at the stats, the park, the players, the path, and the history for each team. So let's start with the Munster Muck Dogs stats. So what I like to do first is take a look at run scoring and run prevention. So from a run scoring perspective, these guys were right in the middle of the road. 755 runs, which was good for 10th in the AC. So pretty average from that perspective, but run prevention is where they thrived. Only 709 runs allowed, which was 5th in the AC. So that tells you that this team was more successful with their pitching than they were with their bats, and that was how they got into the playoffs, and we'll take a look at how they got into the World Series from there. Now, from a home-road split, this team was pretty interestingly neutral. So 593 at home, 543 on the road. You don't often see a team be, and I shouldn't say this bad, but like if a team is 543 on the road, they're typically cooking pretty hot at home, 640, 650. So the 543 is really impressive, and then the 593 is absolutely good enough for high marks at home as well. So the Munster Muck Dogs were pretty balanced in terms of where they were getting their wins. Now, after the sim loads here, we'll take a look at something else I find interesting. The Muck Dogs were way better versus right-hand pitching. So let's get back over to them. So point your attention down here. A 648 win percentage versus right-hand pitching, and really struggled to the tune of 35 and 39 versus left. We'll take a look at the players in a moment and see if we can't identify why that might be. From a month-to-month perspective, relatively consistent. You had the one boom month in June and a couple months just underwater in May and July, but a pretty solid season that ends up in a 92 win total, which will get you into the playoffs 99 times out of 100 in the Perfect League. So well done to Gen Xer 69. Let's take a look at the ballpark. we have a completely neutral ballpark. One's all the way down. 100% neutral. Let's take a look at the players. What were some of the choices that I found interesting? So first thing that pops off the page here is Pop, Lloyd, and Ozzie. So this is a defense first build here. We saw that in the run prevention. 5th overall in the league in run prevention, only 10th in run scoring. And something like that, you can point to a Pop, Lloyd, Ozzie Smith middle infield, which isn't going to hit much for you, but has extreme range. Should be able to get to a lot of balls. The platoon is Pop, Lloyd, and Cal Ripken at second base. So as I toggle to the left-hand lineup, you can see Cal pop up. And Cal obviously very strong defensively himself. Under 700 with the OPS this season. But very strong defensive build. And then the other thing you notice is that Ivan Rodriguez was the catcher of choice. So further investing onto the defensive side of things. Choosing Ivan Rodriguez over a Roy Campanella. So when I look at this combination here, you have a lot of the stock players that most teams are running. I'd say one thing that sticks out is Willie Mays being in that VR lineup, as opposed to, say, a Tris Speaker. So Mays and Hornsby are the two right-handed bats. So he's going Mays and Griffey. You don't see a ton of people doing that. But again, it further speaks to the defense first build that he had there. His worst defender on the field is probably Rogers Hornsby playing third, which is pretty covered there. And then left field is Tony Gwynn, who Tony Gwynn's likely going to be average or better in left. You see he's got a positive ZR, positive efficiency as well. From a pitching perspective, and again, I don't want to spend too much time looking at the configuration now. That could change and doesn't really indicate how he played this given season. So what I like to do is sort by games started and see what picture that gives me. And what you see is that Spawn, Walter, and Pedro all were thrown out traditionally. Locked and loaded in the rotation. Spawn gets the most starts of anyone, which likely suggests he was in that number 1 spot, and they were running always start highest rested. And you basically see that he's got the meta SP build, or what was the meta SP build until we got some new pitchers, which is these top 4 guys right here. And then for his 5th starter, he mixed in Tommy Glavine. Threw him out of the pen some, started him a lot. He does have Madison Bumgarner, but only started him a couple times. I wouldn't be surprised if those were opener appearances as well, which is what I'd chalk up the Plank and Price starts to as well. So that's pretty interesting. My data suggesting that that's not a bad move. Sticking with your Walter, Pedro, Maddox, Spawn, and then filling in a 5th with your pitcher of choice. Let's take a look at his path. The Muck Dogs, they started over here in your bottom left. Got a tough draw in round 1 with Jay Mallett and his Time Lords, and he swept through them. 3-0. Strong showing in that series. Let's see what that series looked like. So it's a 7-3, 4-2, 4-3. We won't go box score by box score for time here. So just one run win in that series. And then from there, he swept the Fair Play Cheaters, 4-0. So he's taken down a Perfect League champion in round 1, taken down a Perfect League runner-up in round 2, and then Max Fire pushes him to 7. And in this one, it looks like the Muck Dogs took Game 7 pretty resoundingly, 12-6. And that included a 5-run rally by the defenders in the 9th. So they certainly have the pedigree in terms of the teams they had to beat to get here. Going through champion, runner-up, and then Max Fire is also another Perfect League runner-up and a team that's been in the Perfect League for a good stretch now. Now, in looking at the Muck Dogs' history, this is their third Perfect League season. This is their second Perfect League playoff. And then now their first Perfect League World Series appearance. So we'll see if they're able to pull it off. Over to the Pigeon Town Pigeons. So we'll go through the same sequence of stuff. We're going to look at stats, park, players, path, and history. So we start with stats. 16th in the league in runs scored. It's a very low number, 738. I think that's around 20 to 30 runs less than the Muck Dogs. But run prevention is where they thrived as well. 4th in the league in runs allowed at 706. ERAs all in the top 7 within the league for starters, overall, and bullpen. And then as you look at the win percentage here, you see a huge split. Pidge at home was 642. Pidge on the road was 457. And then from a month-to-month perspective, pretty consistent. It's a little slow out of the gate, which I think might be a Pidge move. Pidge, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you like starting a little slow and then picking up steam from there. But solid May being his best month, and then pretty consistent months there on out. So why would the home record be so much better than the road record? Might have something to do with a very tuned park. So this is your lefty park build. If you were watching on Thursday when Kidneys and I did Park Factors 101, this was one of the builds we talked about. This was what we termed the lefty park. And so that means you are juicing the lefty average to 1-1. You are juicing the lefty homers to 1-1. You are nerfing righties down to the minimum, 0.9 for each. And then you are sucking out all the doubles and triples you're allowed to, bringing it down to 0.5. This is the park that I've run in Perfect League for the past 8 weeks as well. So I'm very familiar with the park as well as how players perform within the park. And Pidge in the chat confirming that he strongly prefers that bad April. All right, let's look at the players. So what did Pidge roll out this year? What you see is you've got another Pop Lloyd Ozzie combo versus right. So both teams running the Pop Ozzie middle infield. Defense reigning supreme. The other side of the platoon for Pop is Robin Yount. So whereas Muck Dogs went Cal Ripken, the Pigeon Town Pigeons go Robin Yount. And from my experience in the park, Robin Yount actually does better in this home park than Cal Ripken does with the bat. Pidge is also running Ivan Rodriguez over Roy Campanella. So again, steering into that run prevention angle, trying to maximize what you get out of your pitchers, trying to ground the running game. And so I'm guessing Ivan didn't hit at all. Yep, 591 OPS for Ivan, but that's not why you play him. You play him for the benefits he brings to your staff, as well as what he does for the run game. Being able to slow that down and pick up some outs on the bases. Pitching, this is a pretty interesting picture here. So again, we'll sort by game started. And you see Pedro and Spawn with what looks like pretty traditional start counts there, maybe on the low end. You know, normally for number one starters, we're seeing above 31 games started, and a little low on the innings as well. So 186 and 189. Typically, you see top end starters getting well over 200. So you can see that Pidge has been doing some things and moving some players around. And then you see that the third most active starter is Carl Hubble. Carl Hubble not getting nearly as much run in today's perfect team universe as he used to. But before we think that this is 27 traditional starts, let's look at the innings pitched. So in 27 starts, he picked up 81 innings. So let's go game log. And you see April, he was running traditional starts. And then from May all the way through the end of August, he was just running opener starts. And then once we got to August, there was a couple traditional starts picking up in there as well, including one in the playoffs. Yeah, this looks like a traditional start. against Whale King. 6 innings pitched, 8 hits, 4 earned runs. And then you also see in that same series a relief appearance, which was 4 1/3 innings of no-hit ball. So it'll be fun to watch how he deploys Hubble in this series here today. So besides Hubble, Lefty Grove is not too dissimilar. He does have less starts and more innings, but you see a lot of the same thing with the game logs here. A lot of opener appearances to go with some traditional starts. So that'll be something for us to watch. How does Pidge deploy his pitching? All right, so let's talk about the path. How did Pidge get here? Round 1, Pidge goes to 5. Goes on the brink of elimination versus the Cows. Let's see if he had to chase that or if he was leading in that one. So he took game 1, took game 2, and then was on the verge of being reverse swept as the Cows took 3 and 4. But Pidge was able to nail the decisive game 5 with a convincing win, 6-2. So that gets him through the first round. Into the second round, he's got Whale King, another perfect league champion. So as we take a peek at that series there, you see Whale King wins game 1, Pidge takes 2, King takes 3, Pidge 4, and then was able to take 5 and 6 with a couple of one-run victories to bring him to the CS, at which point he played the Durham Los Toros. Very strong team that's been in the perfect league plenty, and he was able to take that series in 6. Losing game 1, taking 2, 3, and 4, failing to close out in game 5 in a 1-run loss, but then getting the job done in game 6. In looking at Pidge's history here, we see that he's been in perfect league plenty. This is his 6th perfect league season, his 2nd perfect league playoff. It would be only a guess for me to say whether or not he made the World Series in 2043, as that predates my broadcast. But odds are this is his first World Series appearance. And that's our preview. So that means we've got 20 seconds. We have got 20 seconds before we start. Our advertised starters are Pedro for Pidge and Spawn for the Muck Dogs. We'll see what we get. Luke is asking me who I'm rooting for. A true broadcaster is completely unbiased, and anyone who was with us last week knows that I always embody completely unbiased commentary. All right, once the sim's in, we're going right into highlight mode. So while that is chugging, let's take a quick peek on the right side of our screen. You see our matchup analyzer. So what does this matchup analyzer do? Well, this matchup analyzer is fueled by Perfect League data. So I pull out Perfect League data for the past 3 years, and I've got it all nested here. And whenever we're in a big moment or we want to know something, we're able... Oh no, I think I forgot to hide scores. So we're going to need to covertly get into this game without blowing it. Give me 1 second to do that. Hide scores, beautiful. Now we're back at it. Postseason coverage. All right, here we go. Yeah, so the matchup analyzer, and we'll use it in just a second. We'll get some reps. Pidge and Muck, here we go. So we start in the Muck Dog Arena. We know that this is a neutral park designed to be like Cincinnati's park, which is pretty cool. And he's going to start with Walter Johnson. So already we're not getting the matchup that we thought we were. And Pidge is going to start with Ty Cobb. Now, from a lineup perspective, you see Pidge trotting out 7 lefties, which I believe was his listed lineup. So nothing different there. Now, the Muck Dogs, They have gone to an alternating every other lineup, and we'll see if Pidge is running any sort of pseudo starter that might be impacted by that. So before we throw our first pitch, we'll get our first rep on our matchup analyzer. Walter Johnson, face of the franchise, as a starter, and you can see his metrics there. And we'll get underway. You see that Walter has a above average FIP, right at average WHIP, strikes out a little less than average, walks a little less than average, and avoids homers. Pretty good. We'll start off the game with a ground ball to second. Easy play over to first, and we are underway in the 2052 Perfect League World Series. So let's go bottom two. We've got Pidge's Pedro on the mound. He's got himself into a little trouble here. He's got Hank Aaron on second, facing Ivan Rodriguez at the plate. Given that we've got a runner in scoring position, we'll go ahead and use our matchup analyzer to get some Ivan Rodriguez versus right, and then to get some Pedro versus right as well. Pedro Martinez, face of the franchise, versus right. And so you see this matchup here heavily favors Pidge, but let's see what happens. Pedro winds and delivers. That ball belted! Deep left field, did he do it? Ivan Rodriguez defies the odds and goes deep to left, 389 feet, giving the Muck Dogs a 2-0 lead here in the second of Game 1. So we go top five now. Muck Dogs still nursing that 2-0 lead. They're on the mound here. Pidge at the plate. He's got a 3-1 count on his Tony Gwynn, but 2 away and Ozzie on first. The pitch. He walked him. That's going to put runners at first and second for Tris Speaker. Big moment in the game here. We'll do a quick toggle and get Tris versus right. Tris Speaker, one of the best cards in this game from the very beginning, and continues to be so, as you see in that profile in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Let's see what he does here in the fifth in a clutch spot, trying to bring Pidge back into this game. The pitch. Up the middle, fielded by the second baseman, over to first. That's going to end the inning. No runs scored here in the fifth for the Pigeon Town Pigeons. We go to the seventh. The Muck Dogs have added 2 runs, making it 4-0. And Pidge is threatening. He's got runners at the corners. Full count. We see the Muck Dogs' Walter Johnson still on the mound, facing Tony Gwynn. The wind and the pitch. Little dinker. Is anyone going to make the play? Johnson fields it. He's got no throw. He's got no play at first. That's an infield hit for Gwynn. Puts Pidge on the board and brings a tying run to the plate in the form of a Tris Speaker. As the pressure is ratcheting up here, let's get a look at what Walter Johnson does versus left-hand batters. Walter Johnson, face of the franchise, versus left. You see the whip jumps to an alarming 1.5. The K rate drops significantly, and the walks go up above league average. Pidge really needs one here. Full count. The pitch. He walked him. Now they're loaded. Pidge searching for that big hit here in the seventh, and he'll try to get it with Rogers Hornsby. And he's going to face Eddie Plank. So the Muck Dogs make the odd decision to pull Walter right then and there, right when a pitcher that's really going to struggle against a right-hand batter, and a right-hand batter that's really going to dominate left-hand pitching. And I'll show you what I mean when I say this. But this is not a good matchup for the Muck Dogs. As you see, Eddie Plank versus right. Lots of red there. And then Rogers Hornsby versus left. Lots of green there. Big moment in this game. 1-0 count. Plank comes set. The pitch. Up the middle. Center fielder coming in. Diving catch. Willie Mays saves a couple runs and saves the Muck Dogs here in the seventh. We go to the eighth. And Pidge now still chasing 3. Eddie Plank still on the hill, and he's facing Roger Connor. 2-0 count. The wind and the pitch. That ball rifled into right field. That's going to be a single for Roger Connor. One of the best cards in the game. my first baseman of choice. Bottom 8 now. Muck Dogs with a 3-run lead looking for some insurance. They'll face a red roughing out of the pen here. And Pop Lloyd will lead it off. 2-0 count here. Wind in the pitch. Pop Lloyd rifles it into the corner in right field for extra bases. On his way to second, he'll have to stop there with a stand-up double to lead off this 8th inning. No run score in the 8th, which takes us all the way to the top of the 9th. Muck Dogs now trying to nail down game 1. 2 out, and their closer Trevor Hoffman on to finish it off. He'll face Tony Gwynn with a 1-1 count. The wind in the pitch. Into left field. That ball's getting down. Gwynn will continue the game, will extend the game at least another hitter. The tying run is now in the on-deck circle as Tris Speaker comes to the plate. 0-2 count. The wind in the pitch. Little dinker blooper. Easy play for Ozzy, and that's going to end the game. The Munster Muck Dogs win the game and start the series off 1-0. Hey, thanks for the sub, Real Simple. So we go now to game 2. We're 6 minutes away from the sim. As we look at the box score, we see both teams deployed traditional starters, and Munster's Walter Johnson just was that much better than Pidge's Pedro. Now, the good news for Pidge is that he only needed 2 pitchers to get through that game. Ruffing is going to be zapped. He won't be available in game 2. But let's take a look at who's in his pen that will be available. So really, Ruffing is the only pitcher unavailable. You've got the whole pen to work with there, as he's showing Greg Maddux as his listed starter. From the Muck Dogs' perspective, they use Plank and Hoffman. Now, Hoffman only threw 13 pitches. And with only 13 pitches thrown, there's a decent chance that he could run him right back out in game 2. Now, Plank with 21 as a starter, less likely to be used here in game 2. So let's look at the Muck Dogs bullpen situation. Yeah, you see a lot more tired arms out here. Madison Bumgarner, although that's showing his starting pitching stamina as a reliever, he's probably fine. Yeah, 4 days ago he threw 44, so Bumgarner's probably fine. But Feller's not available, and Plank, who just threw 30 or 21 pitches yesterday, not available as well. So Simple made it to perfect. Welcome back, man. And I guess I shouldn't say welcome. We're going to be 2 ships passing in the night as I'm leaving perfect and you're arriving. And Michael Vick's on his way up too. Man. Everyone but me is going to be in perfect next week. So as we look at game 2, Munster showing Warren Spahn and Pidge showing Greg Maddux. API, you going up to perfect too? Oh man, the Manchego cheese. Incredible. But me and Chuck will be hanging out in the DLL. You guys can all be jealous. API with, what is that, your 3rd DLL championship? Hey, thanks for the sub, Wallace. Really appreciate it, man. Yeah, impressive stuff. Number 3 for API. Well done. Any other Diamond League champions heading up in the chat here tonight? We've already heard from API and Michael Vick and Real Simple. So that's 3 of the 24 Diamond Leagues. So let's go ahead and update our graphic over here on the right. We'll give the Muck Dogs game 1. the inexact science of lining that up perfectly. And that's not perfect, but it's good enough. Firebird still stuck in Diamond, lost in the playoffs. And one thing I didn't make clear, but the Greg Maddux that we're slated to get this game is Pidge's face of the franchise Maddux. So we're not talking about 100 Legend Maddux. We're talking about the expensive 800K Maddux. And knowing Pidge's Park being a left-handed bat haven, I'd be real surprised if we didn't see him as scheduled in this game. Two minutes to the sim. So as we look at the next couple of games, let's remember that Pidge's Park is left-hand heavy. So if we get Maddux Spawn here, then Pidge would be running Spawn, Grove, Hubble, while the Muck Dogs run Maddux, Pedro, Walter. So that could be a factor. But we've also seen that Grove and Hubble have not always been started in traditional starts, so we'll see if that happens tonight. It's a bit of a face-off. You know, if I'm playing Pidge, guessing whether or not Grove and Hubble are going to go the distance or if they're just going to be openers, that's one of the tough calls as a manager. So who do you guys think is going to win this series? Obviously, the Muck Dogs are up 1-0. Let's get some predictions. Who's going to win and in how many games? Last week we had a lot of Homer fans in the chat predicting a Nomad championship. And we were lucky enough to get it. The week before, we had everyone picking Maxfire. And then Whale King won. Sim's coming in for game 2. Let's see if we get some fireworks. Chuck's taking the Muck Dogs in 5. Tech's taking Pidge in 6. I've got my Cubs mug. 2016 Cubs mug. World Series year. M-Dug's taking the Muck Dogs in 6. He's taking not Pidge in 6. So Tony Gwynn went 3 for 3 for Pidge with 2 walks in game 1. Let's see if he's got the fire emoji here in game 2. Munster didn't really have a hitter get too hot, although his Gwynn went 2 for 4 with a walk himself. And then the Muck Dogs, Ivan Rodriguez, had that very unlikely home run off of Pedro. Sim is in. Let's go to game 2. I'm going to try not to screw it up this time. Success! Here we go. All right, what can we learn off the jump? We see that Munster's running Spawn. He ran him as his ace all season long, and he's getting him into game 2 here, not saving him for Pidge's Park. And we see that Pidge's lineup is 6 righties, but led off with a couple of lefties. On the Muck Dog side, we do see a lineup deviation. He was alternating each hitter last game, and now he's snuck in another lefty in there. And we'll start the game with Spawn versus Cobb. Munster ace Warren Spawn. 41-degree game. The wind and the pitch. Up the middle. But a sliding catch out in center field by Ken Griffey Jr. Keeps Cobb off the bases, and that's a good thing if you are the Muck Dogs. Top 2 now. Pidge is threatening. He's got Ivan Rodriguez at the plate. Now remember, it was the Muck Dogs, Ivan, that made the noise last game. He's got Willie Mays on first and Ricky Henderson, or Willie Mays on second, Henderson on second. Henderson on first. We'll get the who's on first. What's on second? But we've got Spawn versus Ivan Rodriguez. Now, we looked at how horrible Ivan Rodriguez is versus right last game. Let's see if he's any better versus left. You would think he'd have to be. Ivan Rodriguez versus left. And then we'll go ahead and, for good measure, get some Warren Spawn versus right. Advantage still to the pitcher here. Spawn's just that much better of a pitcher than Ivan Rodriguez is a hitter. Full count. Spawn comes set, the pitch. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Big strikeout for Warren Spawn here in the second. We go ahead and go to the bottom of the second now, and the Muck Dogs turn to threaten. Roger Connor on first, and Ken Griffey at the plate. Griffey does have that elusive and desired fire emoji. We've seen this pay huge dividends in perfect leagues past. We'll see if Griffey will do more of the same here today. Maddox comes at the pitch. That ball belted deep left center. It's going to split the gap. Connor on his way to third. He will be held. That's a stand-up double for Ken Griffey, making it second and third and nobody out here in the second. Maddox in a world of trouble, but that world of trouble starting to disintegrate. He proceeded to get Ivan Rodriguez and Pop Lloyd out, and now the rally lays at the feet of Ozzie Smith. Now this is one of the downsides of having that ultra defense lineup. You end up asking hitters like Ivan Rodriguez and Pop Lloyd to come through for you, and against a pitcher like face of the franchise Greg Maddux, they're going to fail a lot. But we'll see what Ozzie can do here to salvage this rally. Ozzie Smith versus Wright. Not a pretty picture. 1-0 count. Maddox deals. Lines it to short. Fielded across the diamond and in time. The threat has ended in the second. Munster gets second and third and nobody out and unable to score. We go bottom 3 now. They've got the leadoff runner on base again in Ty Cobb. And Rogers Hornsby comes to the plate. 2-1 count on him. Line down the left field line and going all the way to the wall. Cobb on his way to third. He will not stop there. He's coming home. The throw, not in time. The Munster Muck Dogs take the lead 1-0. They end up stretching it to 2-0 and get another highlight here in the bottom of the third. And it's Maddox versus Roger Connor here. 2-1 count, the pitch. That ball crushed. Do we have Oppo Taco? We do. Get the sour cream in the guac, because Roger Connor's gone Oppo Taco here in the third. Make it 3-0 Munster. Fast forward, top of the fifth now. Pidge searching for that elusive first run. He's going to try to do it with Ty Cobb versus Warren Spawn here in the fifth. The pitch. That ball's crushed deep left center. It'll get down and head to the wall. Cobb's got 2 easy. Will he try for 3? He does. And he's going to make it without a fight. A sliding triple for Ty Cobb here in the fifth. A shot on the arm that Pidge needs. We go top 6 as that run does not score in the fifth. But Pidge has led off the inning with Jackie Robinson on second base. And now Rogers Hornsby comes to the plate up 3-0. This smells like a walk. The pitch. He walked him. Pidge now brings the tying run to the plate in the form of Willie Mays. And this is a big moment here. So let's do Warren Spawn versus Wright. And let's do some Willie Mays versus left. Advantage to the hitter here. Willie Mays in a neutral ballpark with that 842 OPS. A lot of power, a lot of on base, a lot of bat value. Let's see what he has in store for Warren Spahn here in the sixth. The pitch. Grounder, fielded by the pitcher. He goes second for one, over to first, double play. Crippling twin killing there for Pidge. Erasing what was 2 on and no out. They don't score in the top of the sixth, and the Muck Dogs add a run in the bottom of the sixth, and are threatening for more. They've got Maddox on the mound still for the Pidge, and Hornsby at the plate here with a couple on and 2 out. The pitch. That ball is shellacked. Deep right center, forget about it. 7-0 Muck Dogs. Deafening fireworks here in Munsterville. 7-0 Munster as we go to the ninth. It's all over but the crying at this point, and Pettit's been brought on to finish it off. He'll face Ivan Rodriguez here. The pitch. Little dinker. Pettit fields it. He'll go to first, and the Munster Muck Dogs are up 2-0, heading to Pidgeville. This game wasn't all that close. You see that Munster Spahn, who was an ace for him all season long, 249 innings in the regular season, scatters 7 hits and 2 walks over 7 2/3, and then Pettit comes on for some mop-up duty to finish it off. And you see Pidge's face of the franchise Maddox had a real rough ride. 5 2/3 innings, 11 hits, 7 earned. Gave up 2 dingers as well, as we saw. The dingers coming off the bat of Roger Connor and Rogers Hornsby. So Pidge has got to find a way to dig out of a hole. Down 2-0, heading home. Griffey in this game came in with the fire emoji, ended up going 2 for 4. He'll likely keep it into game 3. Hornsby with a pretty big game. Cobb with a big game. Pidge's Gwynn, who came in off a 3 for 3 with 2 walks, only went 1 for 4. So was not able to keep it going. Had a tough matchup in Spawn. So Pidge, all but a must-win game in Game 3. It looks like an inverse matchup where we've got Spawn v. Maddox going the other way. It'll be Maddox 100 legend for Munster instead of face of the franchise. But Pidge has to find a way to win that Game 3 and make this a series. Chuck asking if Mays had a comeback season VL. Let's take a look at what we can gather. Let me load up some data for you and we can check it out. Here we go. Let's get some Willie in here. Willie Mays. Pulling over a new slide deck or a new Excel spreadsheet here. So here's your Willie Mays face of the franchise decay chart. And so what this shows is for each given season, how well he performed. And so you can remember that early on, Willie Mays was God's gift to center field. Posting an 859 OPS one season, likely playing every day for most players. He, right around 2046, 2047, he really proved to be more of a platoon bat that you only wanted out there versus left. And I think it took 3 seasons for people to realize that, and that's why this group of seasons here, 2047, 48, and 49, actually had worse numbers than we've had recently. I think it took a while for people to realize that they couldn't trot him out there every day. And then he's been pretty consistent in that 760 range here with part-time play. Now, as we look at our splits data, Willie Mays VL at 842, And then Willie Mays VR at 715. And then from a plate appearance perspective, Willie Mays, 36,000 plate appearances VR in the past 3 seasons and 23,000 VL. So seems to be still getting a decent amount of versus right playing time. It's interesting that only one season in Perfect League of the past 6 was Willie on every team. So another thing that I like to do is to see what we can see from a team of evolution perspective. So we'll pop the Muck Dogs in and compare their deployment of players last year to the deployment of players this year. And then we'll do the same with Pidge. I guess we don't have enough data for Pidge. Not sure why that's not showing up. But looking at Munster, it looks like this season is the season he switched from Campanella to Ivan Rodriguez. There we go. Thanks, Chuck. And so you see Munster made the decision to keep Maurer as the VR catcher, but to go ahead and swap out Campanella for Ivan. Seems to have paid dividends for him. And then looking at first base, Ernie Banks hit the showers and Roger Connor came in as well. Jackie, less plate appearances. Pop Lloyd shows up on scene. And so basically these two decisions here, going from Campy to Ivan and going from more Jackie to less Jackie and Pop, you can definitely see that defense was on the mind. It looks like Cal Ripken gave up plate appearances to get Pop in there. And then from an outfield perspective, pretty similar deployments there. I guess the biggest change is that Hank Aaron went from what looks like a short side platoon amount of at-bats to something less than that. So maybe he was a short side platoon for a period of time, and then Ricky took those plate appearances. And then from Pidge's perspective, I only have one season for him, so not able to look at year over year. But you can see how his plate appearances were doled out. 244 for Ricky. No Hank Aaron on the team. And then you see the traditional 3 left-hand bats. You see it oftentimes. Cobb, Gwynn, Speaker. And then as we look at where these guys lined up from a hitting perspective, we can come over here. Here's everyone's favorite team. We'll start with them. Pretty horrific slugging percentage. But here's the Muck Dogs. And where's Pidge? There he is. So I sort this chart here by WAR. And so we saw at the very top of the show that Pidge did not show up very well from an offensive metric perspective. But this is WAR generation for his hitters. And so this is really where you see the dividends of that defense first focus paying off for him here. And then Munster down at 2.03, more middle of the road. As we jump over to pitching, let's look for big deviations here. It looks like the Muck Dogs picked up Maddox for the first time, either that or decided to play him. Whereas you see that Seaver's innings from last year went to Maddox this year, and vice versa. You see Madison Bumgarner got a lot more run last year than he did this year. Same thing for David Price, and then Tom Glavine, another newcomer on the scene. Sim is in, but this is an empty travel day here, so not expecting any game to be ready. Gen X are saying that he didn't play Maddox last year because he was bad. I get it. It looks like Plank and Randy Johnson also shifted their innings. So Plank picked up a double share, and Randy had his innings cut in half. And then Gagne, another newcomer on the scene. So you see Glavine coming on the scene, Gagne coming on the scene, and then Maddox getting played a whole lot more at the expense of Tom Seaver. So I think those changes, all by the numbers, would be improvements. And then let's see how our buddy Pidge threw his lineups or his arms out there. So you can see here, Pidge used a lot more pitchers. So Pidge threw 31 dudes, whereas the Muck Dogs threw 20. And then whereas the Muck Dogs were yielding 250 innings, 225 innings, 212 innings out of their high-end rotation guys, Pidge was sub 200 with all of them. And these guys here, the most likely story for them is that they were either bullpen rescue arms, where Pidge ended up in a bad spot, had a pen full of tired arms, and had to swap these guys in for a couple days, and then ended up swapping them out, or they were likely some low-use opener. I think Pidge's data looks a whole lot more like what my data would look like. I won't be able to put my team there because it takes up too much room. Yeah, the team evolution view is what I call this, and I think it's really cool just to see the conscious decisions that are made and how your team evolves over time. And when you stack up, what is this, 15 seasons like this, you can really see those changes unfold for you. Yeah, Pidge, why only 31 pitches? Were you busy this week? Were you trying something new? So I'll put in a quick indicator of how many pitchers I was using each given season. It looks like my average is around 20. My low being 14 and my high being 23. Pidge's pitching was off this week. 8 minutes till game 3 comes in. Pedro v. Warren. Anybody want to see a matchup that they're curious about? Pick a pitcher, pick a hitter. One of the crowd favorites is David Price versus Pop Lloyd, which is just about the worst matchup that one can imagine for the hitter, and the best that one can imagine for the pitcher. Hank Aaron versus left. Let's pop him in. So Hank Aaron, from a pure bat perspective, is a must-start guy. Now you get into these defense builds and these parks, which depress offense and really make defense even more important. And I think it's easy to make an argument for someone like Ricky to play over him. But Hank Aaron versus left is one of the best versus left bats in the game. In my park, I've had a hard time getting Hank to really hit though. So if you're playing Pidge's Park, you can't expect a ton out of your Hank. And you can see my lines with him here. You get some good seasons. And again, when you're running a short side platoon, you're not going to get a ton of at bats. So smaller sample sizes leads to more volatility. But I expect around 100 OPS plus. API wants to know how he compares to Joe DiMaggio versus left. So screenshot with your mind what Hank's numbers look like, and we'll go ahead and click on Joe. So that's a pretty big advantage there for Hank. There's Hank. 851 on the OPS, down to 830 for Joe. And then OBP being the really big differentiator. Hank gets on base at the 349, whereas Joe is down at 323. M-Dub wants to see Andy Pettitte versus Hank Aaron. Andy Pettitte did not have a very good year. He had a pretty disappointing year. There's Andy Pettitte versus Hank Aaron. You had better be in a lefty park if you're going to be welcoming this matchup here. This definitely does not favor the pitcher. As you see, Pettitte struggles with the home runs. Doesn't strike anyone out, so there's a ton of contact there. Firebird asking about K-Line. We're going to do the all right-hand hitting special here. Yeah, K-Line, you get the range. You get the really strong glove out of him, but what you lose is a meaningful impact bat. He's going to be a little bit above league average with the bat versus left. So it's all about what's important to you. K-Line will post better numbers defensively, but he's not going to give you that same jolt in your lineup. One thing that I forgot to do, as I always do, is give the Muck Dogs game 2. Let's go ahead and do that now. Gwynn and Cobb still above water VL is the question. I don't believe they will be, but let's find out. Tony Gwynn versus left. Yeah, he is. He is above water. 311, 338, 445 split. That's pretty strong. And then let's check Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb is underwater. 268, 319, 430. So Tony Gwynn performing significantly better versus left than Ty Cobb. A little surprising to me. I thought they'd be closer to neutral. There's another toggle for you. And then as we compare them to a more traditional, more splitty left-hand bat, here's Tris Speaker. 251, 300, 407. Now, the three bats that I run left v left are Gwynn, Cobb, and then Roger Connor. And here's Connor here. 703 OPS is not something you're going to write home about with all that excitement, but he gets on base at a decent clip, and he's in position for when a right-handed reliever comes into the game later on. Yep, Chuck, analyzer is for the last 3 seasons. Yeah, I'd say that the game and the numbers that I've been seeing have been pretty stable. Now, the Team of the Year cards could come in there next week with a full week and start to destabilize that a bit, but I wouldn't bet on it. I don't think the volume's going to be there. And I don't know that the impact of those cards is going to necessarily be knocking cards down pegs too significantly. But I could be wrong. I think Pidge has a good point. You know, we got so used to, with the Face of the Franchise series, cards coming in and being just objectively better than other cards at a given position and immediately stealing gigantic swaths of market share from other players and rendering other players by the deployment of the baseline to just naturally get a whole lot less production. And we haven't really had that because we haven't had collection series that are insta-completed right on the night that also led to gigantic market share immediately. Hey, I love Tris Speaker. I love me some Tris. I've had him for a good bit of time. When I got him, it was a pretty surreal experience because I can still remember when Tris was going for millions. And so I picked up Tris in 2045. I've had him for my entire Perfect League run. And he's had some big seasons for me. This 850 OPS season in 2048, real strong. Face of the Franchise, Musio versus Wright. Let's see. Stan Musio versus Wright. 830 OPS. Strong OBP. Good slug. Very positive bat value. Yeah, Tech 15 looks like I bought your Tris. Thanks for it, man. He's been a good ad. Looks like in this season, in 2047, I played him every day. King Kelly, the Forgotten Man. Let's see what he looks like. This will be the last one that we get to do because we're about to have a game to watch. King Kelly VR. King Kelly VL. It's a 768 VR, 719 VL. With his defense being an absolute train wreck, I don't know that either of these bats are worthwhile for what you give up with the glove. He's a DNP, as Chuck says. He is out of commission. I'm going to go ahead and load up Greg Maddux, legend, because we know that he's starting this game, so we'll get him ready. As you see, Greg Maddux, legend, still a very usable card. Below league average in the FIP and the WHIP. Doesn't strike anyone out, but also doesn't walk anyone. And also pretty good at avoiding the long ball. All right, here we go. Game 3. Pidge really needs this one. He needs it bad. It's a home game in his Lefty Cheese Park. And he's going to start us off with Warren Spahn. Spawn will face a lineup. Let's look at how many lefties he's going to face. So the Muck Dogs are throwing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lefties and Ozzie Smith. So only Hornsby and Aaron will really feast natively on the matchup. But we'll see if the lefty park comes into play. And Fire Joe Mauer is in play. So Ken Griffey lost his fire with a 2 for 4. Joe Mauer got some. Either that or we hadn't seen him yet in this series. And then on the Pidge side of things, he's rolling out only 2 left-handed batters. And 2 of them are icy cold. So let's start with Spawn v. Cobb. 74-degree day in Pidgeville. The pitch. Grounder to third, fielded, cross the diamond, easy. Easy pitch and catch, one away. Tommy Glavine, the starter, it appears, for Munster. We'll look at the box score to confirm that at the end of the game. It would make sense given the lineup that Pigeon threw out there. But here we are, bottom 5, and it's Robin Yount in there. We talked about Robin Yount being one of the choices that Pidge made for that platoon up the middle. He chose Yount while his Muck Dogs choose Cal Ripken. And now Yount's got an opportunity to make him look real smart here with Willie Mays on second and 2 away. Glavine pitches. Fly ball left field. Deep. Way back. Back. That ball's out of here. That's a 2-run homer for Robin Yount to break the scoreless tie and make it a 2-0 Pidge lead. Bottom 7. Pidge looking to add. Glavine still on the hill for the Muck Dogs. And he's facing Willie Mays. The 1-2 count to Mays. Wind in the pitch. That ball's crushed. Forget about it. Willie Mays plays long ball, extending the lead to 3. That's a 419-foot bomb to straightaway left, extending that lead to 3. Bottom 8 now, and Pidge looking to add even further. Tommy Glavine is just wearing this one. It's going to go the whole way, it almost seems like it. And as we look at Tommy Glavine's numbers as a starter here, Robin Yount, does he dare make some more noise as we look at his Robin Yount VL split numbers here? 236, 295, 401. So not a bat that you expect a ton out of here, but we're seeing a highlight for a reason. Glavine comes set and delivers. Down the third base line and extra bases. Yount touches the bag. He's heading for second. He'll make it with a throw, but he'll be standing up there with a leadoff double here in the 8th. We go top 9 now. Pidge trying to hammer this one down, and he's got Mariano Rivera, the new Mariano Rivera, to do it. He's facing Ozzie Smith here. Let's get some Mo numbers. I actually have not seen any Mo numbers yet in the matchup analyzer, so this is more for me than it is for anyone else at this point. Mariano Rivera as a reliever. Those are his numbers there. And he's facing Ozzie Smith. I'm kind of surprised at those numbers. That looks real bad. 141 whip out of Mo? Are his VR numbers dominant? What's going on here? Okay. VR looks pretty. Still only a 126 whip, though. That's kind of flummoxing. Why is Mo so bad? Interesting. All right, let's see what Mo does versus Ozzie. We've got Ozzie loaded in the matchup analyzer as well. We'll toggle to his right-hand side, which is slightly better, but still a bad hitter. Mo winds and delivers. Ozzie up the middle, base hit. He'll bring the tying run to the on-deck circle for the Muck Dogs here. But first, we got 2 outs, and Hornsby at the plate needs to get on base to extend this game. We'll go Mariano VR, and we'll also load up our Rogers Hornsby VR as well. Hornsby VR advantage to the pitcher here. The pitch. Grounder to second. Fielded by Pop. Over to first. Game over. And the mission for the Pigeontown Pigeons was to come away with a victory, to shorten the lead from 2-0 to 2-1, and that's just what they do with a pitcher's duel here in Game 3. Let's get to the box score to see what went down. We see Pidge's Warren Spahn throwing an absolute gem. 8 innings of one-hit ball. No walks. Strikes out 6. And so Spahn wins game 2 for the Muck Dogs and turns around and wins Game 3 for Pidge. Now, the Munsters' Glavine did not pitch a horrible game. 8 innings and only 3 earned runs. But he did get touched up with the long ball, which can happen with his contact-heavy profile. The risk of the LVL. And so looking at the lineup deployment there, Munster decided that he wanted to have lefties out there. The park favors lefties, so even though Spawn's out there, even though Spawn is great, I'm throwing my lefty hitters. And at least in this game, it didn't work out. Tons of offers in that lineup. The only two players to get hits are Pop Lloyd and Ozzie Smith, which is as unlikely as it is undesirable. And Pidge took the opposite approach. He knew he was likely facing Glavin, and he just ran with his stock VL lineup, which had two lefties, and then trusted that his right-handed bats, even in his park, could contribute. And that's what they did. Willie Mays played long ball. Robin Yount hit a big dinger. Robin Yount followed with another double later on in the game. And then Mariano closes it down. API saying that Mariano blew 5 games for him in the playoffs alone. So when that card dropped, when the Mariano dropped, I made the argument to Kidneys, and you can go check out This Week in Perfect Team. I made the argument to Kidneys that he wasn't just objectively better than Hoffman. He was a different flavor. You were trading Hoffman's control for Mariano's movement, and I didn't know that that was necessarily going to be a beneficial trade. And at least this first data block that we have here, 4.16 FIP out of an elite closer, that's not pretty. And 1.4 on the whip. I do not like my relief pitchers having this many base runners. And I definitely don't like my relief pitchers walking above league average. And even though he's got good movement, he's giving up homers at a higher clip than he should. That's all vexing. Quite vexing indeed. So this closes the chapter on Game 3. As we look ahead to Game 4, we're slated for Lefty Grove from Pidge and Pedro from the Muck Dogs. As we look at Pidge's lefty, we see that he's been deployed in all sorts of ways. Looking just at the playoffs this year, it appears as if he was a 2-inning opener in his first appearance, a 6-batter faced opener in his second appearance, another 6-batter faced opener in which he got absolutely destroyed, and then was a traditional starter against Durham and threw a shutout. So it's going to be hard to guess exactly what we get out of Lefty, both from a performance perspective as well as how many batters deep he's going to go into this ball game. On the other side of town, or on the other side of the clubhouse, I should say, Pedro for the Muck Dogs. I'd be shocked if it's anything but a straight start. He was never used in relief. It appears as if he was never used as an opener. So I feel pretty confident projecting that we're going to get a straight Pedro start to combat whatever Pidge comes up with. And as we look at Pidge's options in his bullpen, in terms of who could come in if he were to elect to go with an opener, Red Ruffing, Mariano, Hoffman. Those would be the 3 right-hand arms. Now, he could stack lefties. He could go a lefty Grove to an Eddie Plank or a lefty Grove to a David Price, get the stuff boost, and hope that that helps him. It'll be interesting to see what he ends up deciding to do. From a strategic perspective, he's got 2 games to play. He's got this game coming up on this sim and the next one before he gets an off day. But the bullpen's in pretty good shape. Yeah, Chuck, excellent catch there. I should have seen that. Walter Johnson sitting at the 6th spot in the rotation and fully rested. So I think it's highly likely that he might play a factor in this game or the next one. Because the next one we have Hubble slated to start. So if we don't see Walter this game, and it's more of a Lefty Grove traditional start to take advantage of his hot streak, do we then know we'll see him next game? This is the game within the game. Let's go ahead and look at some Lefty Grove numbers as Pidge is making his decision. Here we go. Lefty Grove Special Edition. As a starter, it's a 496 on the FIP, 148 on the WHIP. And then we'll compare that to Hubble. So Hubble's got a big-time problem with the long ball, but has numbers not too dissimilar to the Lefty Grove that we just took a look at. Pidge has a minute to make up his mind, if he hasn't already. But the bullpen's in pretty good shape for him. To get through 2 games, having this many 100% healthy arms to do so, and knowing that you've got Pedro Martinez on deck, that's a decent spot to be in. Simple asking me to rub my head. The only way I'll do that is in a kidneys meme like he rolled out on Thursday. Man, that had me bent over laughing. I couldn't believe that. Zoomers, man. Zoomers. Can't live with them and can't live stream Thursdays without them. "15 seconds. I'm very excited to see what the managers decide to throw out here, both from a Muck Dog lineup composition perspective and then a Pidge pitching plan perspective. We know that Lefty Grove is coming into the game with a fire emoji. We'll see if that plays in at all. We head to Game 4, and the Muck Dogs carry a 2-1 series lead. Before this sim gets here, let's go ahead and update our graphic on the top right side of our screen. That looks pretty good. And we should be notified of a new sim any second now. You gotta heart kidneys. You have to, Crash. He's a good kid. Listen to me, I sound like an old man. He's a good kid. Here we go. It's time to get to Game 4. Either Pidge is evening it 2-2, or the Muck Dogs are taking a commanding 3-1 lead. Which will it be? What decisions will the managers have made? All right. So we are starting with Lefty Grove. We know he had some fire before the game. Now the Muck Dogs have chosen to alternate each lineup spot, going lefty right, lefty right, lefty right, lefty right, down to Ozzie Smith as a switch hitter. Now Pidge's lineup, he's rolling out 4 lefties, 4 righties, and then Ozzie. So let's get the game underway here with Lefty Grove versus Ty Cobb. It's a sunny 71 here in Pidgeville. We're going to start it with a liner down the right field line. The first baseman still hasn't moved. Cobb's going to head on to second, and he'll be in there with a sliding double to start the game. Someone needs to do a wellness check on the first baseman there. Frozen in time there. Fast forward a couple batters, and Lefty Grove's gotten himself into a bit of trouble here. Now, we are onto his fourth batter of the game, so we know it's not a three-batter opener here. He's got to deal with Willie Mays here and a couple guys in scoring position. Full count now. The pitch. Willie Mays loops it to left. Playable. Deep enough for the run to score. Left fielder plays it in. Both runners advance, and it's 1-0 Muck Dogs. The rally ends there. We go bottom one, and we see David Price on the mound for the Muck Dogs. And he's facing Roger Connor here with 2 outs and Ty Cobb on second. I'm going to go ahead and throw up some David Price versus left so you guys can see what we're dealing with here. David Price, the single best pitcher versus left-handed batters. So Roger Connor got his hands full with this matchup here. He's got a 2-1 advantage in the count. The pitch. Loops that one into the left center field gap. It's down, and it will score Cobb. Connor heads to second, slides in with an RBI double that evens this game at 1 apiece here in the first. Bottom two now. Price still in the game. And he's got himself into trouble here, and he's done so against two light-hitting batters with Yount and Ivan Rodriguez. And now that's going to bring up Ozzie Smith. Now, we've looked at Ozzie before. We know Ozzie can't hit. And Ozzie versus right really struggles. 235, 295, 316. A wildly negative bat value. And a 611 OPS. 1-2 count and 1 away here. Price comes set. The wind in the pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. 2 away. We go bottom four now. Price still in the game. He's facing Robin Yount to lead off the fourth. The pitch. That ball's crushed deep right center. Center fielder not even moving. That's a Pidgetown bomb. 440 happy feet to the opposite field for Robin Yount, who now has homers in back-to-back games in this series, heating up quite a bit. 2-1 Pigeons as we go to the fifth. Lefty Grove still in the game. I've seen enough now to be able to call it that Lefty Grove was deployed as a traditional starter, and he's gotten himself into the fifth. He's got Cal Ripken on first and Ozzie Smith at the plate. The wind in the pitch. Up the middle, could be 2. It's the second one, and he's going to hold the ball there and not force a throw. They get the lead runner, but Ozzie takes over at first. And we fast forward now, top 6. Grove still on the mound, facing Tony Gwynn. The wind in the pitch. Gwynn, little dinker, fielded. Throw! The noodle arm can't get him. Lefty Grove went ahead and lobbed that one over there, a la John Lester, and couldn't get the play done. So Tony Gwynn starts off this 6th with an infield single. And that's going to bring up Willie Mays with nobody out. 2-2 count on him. Strike 3 called. Big strikeout for Lefty Grove here in the 6th. Next batter is Roger Connor. We're starting to amp up our pressure here. It's time to use the matchup analyzer to diffuse it. We've got Lefty Grove SE versus left, and Roger Connor versus left. Lefty Grove less dominant versus left than many left-handed pitchers. But let's see what he has in mind for Roger Connor here. As Roger Connor's down on the count 1-2. The wind in the pitch. Little dinker. Pop Lloyd comes in and fields it, but has no play. Infield single for Roger Connor. Furthering the trouble here for Pidge in the 6th. The next batter is Ricky Henderson. We'll go ahead and toggle Lefty Grove to be versus right. And then we'll get Ricky Henderson in here versus left. Now the versus left profile looks pretty good for Ricky. 337 on base, 448 slug, 784 OPS. But I can attest, In this ballpark, Ricky does not come anywhere near producing those numbers versus left. So 3-1 count here for Ricky Henderson, trying to even the score or better for the Muck Dogs. The wind and the pitch. He walked him. Lefty Grove has loaded the bases here in the 6th, and he'll stay in the game to face Joe Mauer. Matchup analyzer starting to smoke. It's getting so much use. And Joe Mauer versus left, as Lefty Grove versus left. Advantage to the pitcher for sure, but we are in a lefty park. The infield is in, which typically gives the batter a batting average advantage as well. So 0-2 count. Shift on for Pidge. The wind and the pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Pidge needed a strikeout, and boy, did he get it. Next batter's Cal Ripken. Lefty Grove trying to get out of this one. Trying to do the high wire act and come out unscathed. Deep into the 6th inning, pitch count's got to be growing. And what separates him from escaping is Cal Ripken Jr. And you see in the matchup analyzer that Ripken versus left, 783 bat, positive bat value. He's worked a 3-1 count here. Grove comes set and pitches. He walked him. This game is all tied up on a base on balls to Cal Ripken. That brings up Ozzie Smith. We've seen this view already, and we'll see it again. Ozzie Smith versus left. Not a pretty sight. 264 on the on base, 293 on the slug. But a real chance here for the Muck Dogs to break this game open if they can get an unlikely hit from Ozzie Smith. 3-1 count. The wind and the pitch. He walks Ozzie Smith. Nightmare scenario when you walk a guy with a 204 average and a 264 on base to break a tie. And that brings up the best hitter in the game, Ty Cobb. We've looked at this before the game. We know that Ty Cobb is not dominant versus left, but we are in a lefty park, and he's freaking Ty Cobb. He's got a full count. Runners will be in motion on the pitch here. The wind and the pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. So lefty dug himself a grave, but didn't put himself all the way in it. Escapes the inning, only yielding 2. And the Pidgetown Pigeons are now chasing a run here in Game 4. We're going to start this one off with Tris Speaker against David Price. Wind in the pitch. Snap ball crushed left center. Does it have enough legs to go? It does! Tris Speaker goes Oppo Taco off David Price. A tough matchup for the lefty, but he goes opposite field on a 94-mile-an-hour sinker and ties the game at 3. That brings up Robin Yount. Not any old Robin Yount. Not any old Robin Yount. We're talking fire Robin Yount. And this Robin Yount has homers yesterday. He's got a homer today. And he's facing David Price right now. 1-1 count on him. The pitch. That ball crushed left field. Did he do it again? Did he do it again? He did! Robin Yount, second homer of the game. Back to back. And the Pidgetown Pigeons now lead 4-3. Fire Yount. I've never seen one. Man, what a bomb. Now we go top 7. Pidge protecting that precarious 1-run lead. He'll try to do so with Eddie Plank. Now we've talked about lefties being very good versus left-hand batters, and Eddie Plank is no exception. Eddie Plank versus left, a FIP under 3. And Tony Gwynn versus left, pretty solid hitter there, but this is a tough matchup for him regardless. 1 away here in the 7th. The wind and the pitch. Loops it into center field. That's going to be a 1-out single for Gwynn. It's going to put the tying run on board for the Muck Dogs as Willie Mays comes to the plate, and I'll just toggle Plank's numbers to VR. This is why you see Plank not dominate every season. He really struggles versus that offhand. Whip over 1-6. 0-2 count now. The wind and the pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Big strikeout for Eddie Plank here in the 7th. We go bottom 7 now. Pidge looking to capitalize. Pidge looking to add some insurance. And he's facing Muck Dog's Eddie Plank with his own Roger Connor at the plate. The wind and the pitch. Up the middle, fielded by Ozzy. Touch second for 1, across the diamond to complete the twin killing. Pidge's second crippling double play in this World Series. We now go to the 8th. Still Eddie Plank on the mound, facing a right-handed batter here in it, and Ricky Henderson still protecting that 1-run lead. 2-2 count to lead off the inning. The pitch. Swing and a miss, strike 3, but it gets past the catcher. He's able to complete the play at first. Ivan Rodriguez able to chase it down and make the play to avoid that leadoff runner being on base. Still in the top of the 8th. Plank still on the mound facing Cal Ripken. Smells and looks like a walk. We'll see if we get it, and we do. 2-out walk a Cal. That brings up Jackie Robinson. It's our first Jackie Robinson highlight of the evening. And we'll go ahead and pull him up and show his versus left splits while we show Plank's versus right. 2-2 count on him as Jackie looks to find a gap to tie this game. 2-2 the pitch. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Plank with a big strikeout here in the 8th, which will guarantee Pidge an opportunity to close this down in the 9th with the lead. Top 9 now. David Price into the game. And he's got a 1-2 count on Ty Cobb to start off the inning. You definitely want to keep Cobb off base if you are a Pigeon fan. David Price comes set and winds and delivers. Fly ball right center. Playable. Center fielder drifts over and makes the grab. 1 away to start off the 9th. Now with 1 away, and this is a big moment here, so we're definitely going to use our matchup analyzer. We've got David Price versus right, and we've got one of the better hitters in the game versus left, Willie Mays. Tough spot here. You hope if you're the Pigeons, you can lean on a ballpark that really nerfs out right-handed batters. So I put Willie Mays in here. I should have put Rogers Hornsby, who's even better than Willie Mays. Big spot here, 2-2 count. The wind in the pitch. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Hornsby swings at a ball out of the strike zone for the second out of the inning. And now the Pidgetown Pigeons are 1 strike away from evening this series. And they've got to get through Tony Gwynn to do it. Advantage to the pitcher here with David Price and those very dominant versus left-handed batting numbers. 1-2 count. The wind and the pitch. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Pidge has evened the series at 2-2 with a 1-run victory over the Muck Dogs. And we'll get a quick peek at the box score before we roll right into Game 5. A pivotal Game 5. And we see here that Munster rolled a traditional starter Price and Pidge rolled a traditional starter Lefty Grove. Starters did pretty comparably. Lefty Grove decided to walk everyone under the sun, but didn't really have to pay the price for it. And then Plank and Price came in to nail it down with 3 clean innings. A very astonishingly high number of winners of pivotal Game 5s go on to win the World Series. This game could very well determine who will be our World Series champion. And we're going to start with Carl Hubble. Now we know that Pidge is sitting on a fully rested Walter Johnson. Will we see him? And how quickly? And then from a lineup perspective, the Muck Dogs rolling out a pretty similar group to last game. A lot of lefties, some righties. And Pidge is rolling nearly all lefties. 7 lefties plus Ozzy and Hornsby. Hubble will start off the game versus Ty Cobb. Now we know that Hubble's got a long ball problem. Gives up way too many homers. And he's even weaker from a movement perspective versus left. The pitch to Cobb. He's going to loop it to center. And the Muck Dogs will start this game with a leadoff single by Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb has worked his way around the bases to third as Hubble now faces Tony Gwynn. I'm going to load up the Carl Hubble numbers here as a starter for you guys to chew on as Gwynn tries to drive in this run and give the Muck Dogs an early game lead. 2-2 to Gwynn. Fly to center, playable, Cobb will tag. The catch is made, and the relay comes in. It's going to be nowhere near in time, and the Muck Dogs take an early 1-0 lead. Still top first, and Hubble trying to get himself out of this. We've now seen Hubble pitch to 3 batters. He has not been pulled here before batter number 4 as he faces Willie Mays here now. Wind in the pitch. Deep fly ball left field. Back. It might be. It could be. It is. Willie Mays plays long ball to extend the Muck Dog lead to 2 here in the first. We talked about Hubble's long ball problems, and it rears its ugly head here in the first inning. Still in the first now, the very next batter is Roger Connor. Hubble still in the game. 1-2 count on Connor. He crushes that ball! Deep center field, it's going to hit the scoreboard! Hide the women and children as that laser beam was shot out to center field. 492 happy feet for the Muck Dogs as they take a commanding 3-0 lead here in the first. We go bottom 3 now. Pidge trying to counterpunch. He's facing Pedro. He's got Cobb on second and Gwynn at the plate with a 3-0 count. The pitch. Gwynn swinging on 3-0 and he rifles a base hit to the right side. Around third comes the runner. He's going to try to score. He's in there. Muck Dogs lead is cut down to 2. Still bottom 4 now, and we've got Ken Griffey. Griffey will bat with a man on second and 2 out. The man on second being Roger Connor. And we'll go ahead and pop up some Pedro. We haven't had a chance to show you much Pedro. Pedro as a starter. We'll look at Pedro versus left in this matchup versus Ken Griffey as Pidge is looking to cut that lead even further. Griffey versus right. I mean, Pedro versus anyone's a bad matchup, but you want him facing left-handed batters, and then if you're Griffey, you want him facing right-handed pitchers. And in this park, Griffey can be dangerous at times. 1-1 count here in the bottom of the 4th. The pitch. Fly ball deep center field. Did he get enough? Did he get enough? He did! And the Pidgetown Pigeons tie this game at 3 in the 4th inning of Game 5. We've got a brand new ball game, and Pidge is trying to undo it. Pidge is trying to take the lead here in the 5th of a pivotal Game 5, and he's got Pedro on the ropes with Cobb on first and Gwynn at the plate. The 1-1 pitch. Looper to right. That ball's going to drop. Cobb's going to head to third. The throw will not be in time. Runners at the corners for the Pidgeontown Pigeons. And that's going to bring up Tris Speaker. Tris Speaker with a chance to untie this game. You see his versus right numbers, definitely his strong side. An OPS over 800 as he's looking to deliver the knockout blow on Pedro Martinez. You see the Muck Dogs with the extreme shift in the infield and also playing infield in. First, a pickoff throw to third, Cobb back. 2-2 count now on Tris. The pitch. Little grounder, pitcher fields it. Runner not trying to score. Throw to first, not in time. That's an infield hit. Cobb did not try to advance. So now they are loaded. We will show you Pedro versus right. We will show you Rogers Hornsby versus right as well. Advantage to the pitcher, but Pedro's probably 80 pitches into this game. He's probably somewhere around there. And his effectiveness has been waning. So the infield is in here. They need a double play, but they'll settle for getting the lead runner at home. 0-2 count on Hornsby. The wind in the pitch. Swing and a miss and a huge strike 3 for Pedro Martinez. Taking down Rogers Hornsby with the bases loaded and 1 away. And now Pidge's last hope for this rally is Joe Mauer. We will jump over to Super Joe Mauer here. Pretty neutral matchup. Joe's got a neutral bat versus right, and we're in a park that favors those lefties. Let's see what he can do here in the fifth. 2-2 count. The wind and the pitch. Strike three called! And Pedro strikes his way out of trouble here in the fifth. We go top six now. The Muck Dogs trying to answer. They are now facing Pidge's Randy Johnson. And Ozzie Smith is at the plate. Now, Randy Johnson was featured on my Scary Good cards list, but he was in the Scary Bad section a couple weeks ago. And the thing I don't like about Randy is that walk rate. 5.8 walks per 9. And that can make him subtly ineffective against even a bad hitter like Ozzie Smith. We'll see what happens here in the sixth. The wind and the pitch. He walks Ozzie Smith. How many clutch at-bats is Ozzie Smith going to walk in this series? And that brings up Ty Cobb. We know that Randy's pretty good versus left. He's got a league average walk rate versus left. It's not horrible. It's not great. And then Ty Cobb does struggle some versus left as well. 0-2 count. Johnson comes set. The wind and the pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike three. Big strikeout here in the sixth to leave a runner stranded in scoring position. We go bottom six now. The Muck Dogs Pedro trying to get control of this game. And he's started with a 3-ball count to Roger Connor. Wind and the pitch. Roger Connor swinging on 3-0 and he crushes it. That ball's out of here. Breaking a scoreless tie is Roger Connor on a 3-0 count against Pedro Martinez. 424 feet to make it a 4-3 Pigeon advantage. We go top seven now. Randy Johnson's still in the game here, and he's facing a guy who can do a lot of hurt to him in Rogers Hornsby. Just about as bad a matchup as you can dream of, with your pitcher in all red and their hitter in all green. Full count. The wind and the pitch. That's ball four. It's going to start the seventh with a walk to Rogers Hornsby. That does bring up Tony Gwynn, which puts Randy Johnson back in his favored side of pitching against a left-handed batter. First, the pickoff throw. Check on Hornsby. Nothing doing. 3-0 count now on Gwynn. The wind and the pitch, and he walked him. Randy's control issues rearing their head here, and he's now facing a Willie Mays with nobody out here in the seventh. We'll go ahead and not be lazy and load up both of our matchup analyzers. Mays versus Randy Johnson, nursing a very precarious 1-run lead. Full count, the wind and the pitch. Grounder to second, or short, fielded. That's going to be a double play. Pidge had been victimized by the double play twice in this World Series, and he finally gets to use the tool here today. And so Pidge gets his wish. They do pull Randy Johnson, and they bring in Trevor Hoffman here in the seventh with 2 out, as the tying run is 90 feet away on third base in the form of Rogers Hornsby. It's our first Trevor Hoffman moment, and we get to see how beautiful his numbers are. As you see Trevor Hoffman as a reliever. And we're facing Roger Connor. So we'll show you Hoffman versus left and Connor versus right. The wind and the pitch. Little dinker fielded by the pitcher across and in time, ending the inning and protecting that 1-run lead. The key to that seventh inning was that double play ball. So we go top 8 now. Hoffman's still in the game. He's going to start off versus Ricky Henderson, which is a great matchup for Pidge. As you see, Ricky can't hit righties, and Hoffman even more dominant versus the same side. 1-2 count on Ricky. Loops it to right. That ball's going to get down. The Muck Dogs start the 8th inning with a leadoff base hit by Ricky Henderson, who is trouble on the bases, and it appears as though he's just stolen second base. So Joe Mauer now, and for the rest of the hitters of this inning, they will be batting with a runner in scoring position. Splits loaded for Hoffman versus left and Mauer versus right. And this is not just any Mauer. It's not just any Mauer. This is a fire Mauer. And he's got an opportunity to tie this game here in the 8th. 2-2 count the pitch. Grounder to second. That's going to be an out, but it is a productive out as he does move the runner over to third. And that brings up Ken Griffey Jr. One away. Infield in, and the drawn in infield. Griffey loops it right over and ties this game at 4. The Muck Dogs come up with a clutch run off of Trevor Hoffman here in the 8th. And the sequencing there was Ricky with a bloop single, a stolen base, a productive ground out, and then a looping single by Griffey. And Griffey was a pinch hitter there. That's a fire Griffey as well. So Muck Dogs leaning on their fire players, and now they bring up Ozzie Smith. 2-0 count on him, the pitch. Loops it to left. In comes a left fielder, makes the grab. 2 away. Tris Speaker on that one. So Griffey has worked his way around to third via some sequence of stolen bases and wild pitches or pass balls. And now Hoffman is playing with some fire here. He's got one of the best hitters in the game, Ty Cobb. And I'll show you why I say that when we see his versus right numbers. Hornsby's on deck, so it doesn't get much easier there. It'd be a better matchup, but you'd be loading more bases, so I don't know that I'd walk Cobb. Maybe I would if given the choice. But Hornsby or Hoffman needs to work his way out of this one. Full count on Cobb. The wind and the pitch. Grounded to first, fielded and played. That's going to end the threat here in the 8th. Bottom 8 now. Pidge looking to take the lead, to head to the 9th with the lead. And he's got Griffey at the plate. And we've got Andy Pettitte. We haven't seen him yet. Let's get Andy Pettitte versus left. And let's also get some Ken Griffey versus left. So Pettitte, very strong FIP. Very strong walks per 9. Keeps the homers down too, but he does struggle from a whip perspective in our limited Perfect League sample. 1 away for Griffey, the wind and the pitch. Griffey crushes it deep right center! He did it! Ken Griffey Jr. unties this game in the 8th, making it a 5-4 Pigeontown Pigeon lead. Clutch home run by the kid. Still in the 8th, they're showing us this at bat for some reason. Whenever Pop Lloyd comes up in a highlight versus left, I have to show just how atrocious he is versus them. Let's see what he can do against Andy Pettitte here. And Pop Lloyd goes deep! Pop Lloyd versus left plays long ball. Back-to-back homers for the Pigeontown Pigeons, and now a 2-run lead in the 8th. Shut the front door. Still in the bottom of the 8th, Pettitte trying to get out of this inning. This inning has seen him give up 2 home runs already, and he's now got to face Ty Cobb. 1-2 count, the pitch. Cobb's going to loop that into left field for another base hit. The Muck Dogs can't get to tying this game if they can't get out of this 8th inning. And now here we go to the 9th. Pidge has already collected a couple outs here and is now 1 out away from taking a 3-2 series lead. And he's entrusting David Price to do so. David Price versus right. Hank Aaron versus left. This is no cupcake matchup. Hank Aaron is a very formidable foe for left-handed pitchers. A lot of power in that bat. Very easily could tie this game with a swing. The wind and the pitch. Grounded to third, fielded. takes the easy throw to second, and they win the game. The Pigeontown Pigeons take a 3-2 lead in the series, having swept all 3 games at Pigeontown Park. Andy Pettit with a rough 8th inning. Giving up the dinger to Griffey is one thing. Shouldn't happen, but it did. But giving up the dinger to Pop Lloyd, unforgivable. So as we look at our box scores, both teams went traditional pitchers. So we did not see Walter Johnson. We didn't see him in 4. We didn't see him in 5. We saw Carl Hubble with a straight start. Hubble almost got himself knocked out in the first inning. Hubble had a real rough start, but he was able to settle down. And then Randy Johnson came in. And the reason I don't like Randy is not because he can't get outs. It's because he walks too many guys. And he came in and did walk 3 batters for the 5 outs he collected, but was able to pitch around them. Now, Pidge's Hoffman blew the lead, but Ken Griffey played hero ball, as did Pop Lloyd, and they were able to get it back and hold it with David Price. On the Munster side of the box score, Pedro went 6, gave up 4. This park is a particularly hard park for Pedro to pitch in. Doesn't love facing lefties. Doesn't love it when those lefties are boosted on average and those lefties are boosted on home runs. And Pedro gave up a couple long balls. Gave up 1 to Roger Connor. Gave up 1 to Ken Griffey. So Griffey with a 2 home run game. As you look at the three games in Pigeon Park as he calls it, we saw Robin Yount being a hero in games 3 and 4, and then we see Ken Griffey with the 2 home run game in game 5. So we've got 10 minutes here before we get to watch Game 6. Pidge does not have a listed starter for Game 6. Let's go try to figure out who it's going to be. So at his disposal, he's got Pedro, Walter, and Maddox to deploy in a neutral park. It seems pretty safe to say we'll get a right-handed pitcher. It's just a matter of which one. In terms of which one was best for him in the season, it was Pedro. And we see that Walter Johnson has been moved over to the pen after having lived in that 6th spot of the rotation in previous sims. Walter only made 1 start in the regular season. So I think it's fairly safe to say that we're likely heading to Pedro. You see that Pidge's Maddox, face of the franchise Maddox, was really rough this year. 5.83 ERA, giving up 200 hits in 160 innings. A 1.41 whip. Giving up plenty of long ball, too. So I think he's going to try to shut this down with Pedro in 6. As we look at the Muck Dogs, their ace, Warren Spahn, is rested. And Warren Spahn has been their horse. As you look just at the playoffs, Warren Spahn went 8, giving up 2, 7, giving up 3, 8, giving up 1, and then in game 1 of this series, went 7 2/3, giving up none. So the Muck Dogs have a high degree of confidence in the performance they're going to get out of Warren Spahn. Penn pretty rested for the Muck Dogs. Should they win Game 6, I think we'd see Walter Johnson in Game 7. A fire Walter Johnson. In looking at the lineups, the Muck Dogs are sporting a fire Mauer and Griffey. And Pidge has a Fire Yount. And then an Icy Hornsby and Smith. Let's take some more time to look at Andy Pettitte. So I'm going to mix his versus left and his versus right. And he was at slightly above a league average rate of homer per 9. If we whittle that down to just lefties had a really hard time going yard against him. And then if we use the split for reliever, same thing. Difficult to go yard off of Andy Pettitte in relief. So tough draw there in that 8th inning. Giving up the 2 homers. .28 pitches in that relief appearance for Pettitte. Now, unless anything has changed, unless anything has been fixed, if we get a super long sim here, that likely means that Pidge is our champion. If we get a short sim, that likely means the Muck Dogs have evened the series. Speaking of Pidge, I owe him 2 games here. Game 4 and Game 5. I need to hire a full-time score bug reminder guy because I'm just terrible about this. All right, this is looking pretty good. Boom. So 3-2 Pidge. As we head to Game 6. Again, no listed starter for the Pigeon Town Pigeons. And going up against Ace Warren Spawn for the Muck Dogs, who has a 1.76 ERA in this postseason. Do we see the series end or do we see it pushed to 7? I said earlier I'm not rooting for anything, but right now I am rooting for Game 7. I'm rooting for massive high drama, not knowing who's going to win. But Chris was in the chat last week. He said that they were going to look into the long sim. They'd figure something out. So I have confidence that they'll get around to it. Gen Xer mentioning the weather. Yeah, here in Chicagoland, today was just about the most beautiful day that you could ever have. I would guess it was in the high 60s, maybe low 70s. Not too sunny, not too cloudy. It was just a perfect day. Ended up walking downtown Nape. Had a great day with the fam. Gen Xer, where in Chicagoland do you live? Simple's got 73 in Dallas. Although you got 73 every day. Dallas's weather is a lot better than Chicago's. Although I guess you don't get 73 in the summer. You get like 103. Northwest Indiana on Gen Xer. Yeah, the longer that we can hold off snow, the longer that we can hold off frigid temperatures, I'm all for it. Munster Muck Dogs owner lives in Munster. It makes too much sense. Just like Pidge actually lives in Pigeon Town. 70 in Fargo, 66 in Louisville for Chuck. 20 Celsius on tech. Someone's going to need to convert that for me. 73 in Boston. Holy cow. That's beautiful. I would have thought that you guys wouldn't have this good weather yet. Normally you guys don't get our good weather until a couple days later. $75 in Nashville, New Hampshire. Two minutes to the sim. What do you guys think? Does Pidge take it here or do we go 7? Simple with the conversion for me. 68 degrees is 20 degrees Celsius. Thanks for the help. Pidge says we're going 7. Gotta love the 7-game Perfect League World Series. Unless you're in it. When you're in it, you want that long sim. You want it. Call out to Crash SF in the chat. Crash made the playoffs this week. Way to go, man. You'll win it all next week. Under a minute to the sim. Man, there's nothing like being in the playoffs in your Perfect League main league as you watch your playoff bracket come together, as you watch your team advance from round to round, as you have the opportunity to deploy and build a strategy that takes advantage of your park, your players, your opponent. It's a lot of fun. Snaggle J. Snaggle J jumping in with a party of 11. Welcome, welcome, my friend. Yeah, I got to say, I'm sure that my energy isn't anywhere near where it was last week when I got to be in this thing. Not only am I not in it, but I'm also on the wrong side of the banhammer that is the Perfect League. I'm busy packing up my stuff. Chris and Rich said I got to get out of here. They said, you got to go, man. 82 and 80 doesn't cut it. Be better. The sim has started. If you're Pidge, you don't want it returning. If you're Gen Xer, you want it coming back as quick as possible. Quick shout out here for Cookie. So Cookie, who is the manager of the Ropraz Bulls, just missed the playoffs. Missed it by game 163. And the funny thing is, he was in a game 163 last year too. So he had to use game 163 to get to the playoffs last year. And then game 163 booted him out this year. Cookie must think that there's just 163 games in a Perfect League season. But he definitely represented himself well in his couple weeks in the Perfect League, and I'm sure we'll see him again real soon. Ooh boy, Snaggle finished over $2,000. Way to go. Go take a nap. You need it. Sim is in. Took 2.5 minutes. I am not taking this to mean anything yet. Chris took note of the problem of the long sim last week. I don't know that it would be overly crazy to think that it would be fixable in a short period of time. So I am not assuming that we know anything other than this sim is in. Game 6 time. Here we go. All right, what do we got? We got Warren Spahn on the hill for the Muck Dogs. Remember, we're back into neutral park now. We have left Pidgeville. We have left Lefty Parksville. And we are in neutral park. And so Pidge is throwing out 6 right-hand batters, leading off with those 2 top hitters, Cobb and Gwynn, top of the order. On the Muck Dog side, we see a lineup very heavy on the left-handed hitter, including a Fire Mauer. Let's get started. 1-1 count for Spahn on Cobb as we start the game. 33-degree weather. It's a cold one here in Munster. The wind and the pitch. Little dinker, fielded by the pitcher, throw to first in time. The game starts with a 1-3 putout, and we've got 1 away. We go top 3 now, and up comes Robin Yount. And this isn't any Robin Yount. This is Fire Robin. Robin's got 3 dingers in this series, and Robin's not a home run hitter. Let's see if he's got something up his sleeve here in the third. And that ball's drilled to deep center off the top of the wall. That's a leadoff double for Robin Yount, who has become Hank Aaron for the purposes of this series. Top 5. Looks like Robin Yount got thrown out on the bases, or were we in a different inning? Well, we're in the top of the 5th now, and we've got Ricky Henderson on first. Munster's Spahn still on the mound and dealing. He's given up only 1 hit, and he's facing Ivan Rodriguez. And we'll pull up Ivan Rodriguez's versus left for your benefit, and we'll also pull up Warren Spahn versus right. Advantage to the pitcher here. 1-2 count. The wind and the pitch. Lines it down the right field line. All the way to the wall. Ricky on his way to third. Will he stop there? He will. That's a 2-out double. An unlikely double for Ivan Rodriguez to continue this rally for the Pigeon Town Pigeons. And that brings up Ozzie Smith to try to grab hold of another unlikely base hit here. Versus left. He's a 204, 264, 293 hitter. What can he do versus Warren Spahn here in the 5th? The wind and the pitch. Grounded to short. Fielded by Ozzie. Across the diamond in time. That's going to end the inning and end the threat of the Pigeon Town Pigeons. We go bottom 5 now. Munster trying to break the tie. Facing Pigeon Town's Pedro Martinez. And Ty Cobb at the plate with a runner in scoring position and 2 away the pitch. Fly ball deep center. That's getting over the center fielder's head and it will land at the base of the wall. That's an RBI double for Ty Cobb, scoring Ozzie Smith in the process. Make it 1-0 Munster. We fast forward to the top of the 8th. Warren Spahn doing his best real-life Madison Bumgarner impression as he is dominating another playoff game. But what stands between him and an out in the 8th is Robin Yount. Fire Robin. 3-1 count on him. The wind and the pitch. He walked him. Robin Yount proving to be a major thorn in the Munster side in this series, and he's got a leadoff walk here in the 8th. Bring up Ivan Rodriguez. The wind and the pitch. Deep to right, but playable. Right fielder shifts over, makes the grab. Runners won't advance. 1 away now for Ken Griffey. And this Ken Griffey has been problematic. Hit a big home run in Game 5 to help the Pigeon Town Pigeons move on to Game 6 with a 3-2 series lead. Big advantage for the pitcher in this matchup here with an 0-2 count. The wind and the pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Spahn strikes out Griffey for the second out here in the 8th. And that brings up Ty Cobb. We're in crunch time now, so we're getting our money's worth out of our matchup analyzer as we look at Spawn versus left and Cobb versus left. Advantage to the pitcher here. Spawn does an extraordinary job limiting walks and limiting home runs to left-handed batters. And that's exactly what he'll look to do here with Ty Cobb here in the top of the 8th. Wind in the pitch. Grounder to second. Pop fields it. Over to first. Inning over. That ends the threat in the 8th and will guarantee that Munster will pitch in the 9th with the lead. Here we are in the 9th. Warren Spawn, at least currently trying to finish off a shutout here in what has been a legendary playoff run for him. He's got a 1-0 lead. He's given up only 2 hits on the game, and he'll start with Tony Gwynn, a tough customer, even versus left-hand pitching. 0-2 count on him, the wind in the pitch. Strike 3 called. Warren Spawn, masterful all night, strikes out Gwynn to start the 9th. Next batter, Jackie Robinson. We're 1 swing away from a tie game. Is Jackie the guy to deliver it? You see Jackie's versus left. Not a big power hitter, but does a good job of getting on base. 2-2 count. The wind in the pitch. Grounder to second, fielded, cross and out. 2 up, 2 down. Spawn an out away from finishing a masterful shutout here in Game 6. And the one thing separating him from a Game 6 victory and sending this to a deciding 7th game is getting through Rogers Hornsby. We've seen this before, but it's worth seeing again. Hornsby absolutely murders left-hand pitching to the tune of 306, 389, 536, an OPS well over 900. A wildly positive bat value, the single best hitter versus left-hand pitching in the game. However, this isn't any Hornsby. This is an icy cold Hornsby. And he hasn't done anything in this series, and he's sporting that emoji, which doesn't give you much faith if you're a Pigeon fan. Full count now. Spawn winds. Spawn delivers. Strike 3 called. Spawn does it. Spawn twirls a gem and pushes us to a deciding Game 7 in the 2052 Perfect League World Series. 5 minutes to our Game 7 sim, which we know will be a long one. Look at this outing here. Spawn goes 9, gives up 2 hits, 2 walks. The only hits he gave up was double to Rodriguez and a double to Yount. 2 guys that aren't likely to hit him. Cobb, Gwynn, Hornsby, Mays combined to go 0-for. Same for Jackie. Griffey got into the game late, couldn't do anything. What a performance by Warren Spawn. And look at this postseason. I mean, this is picturesque. This is what an ace is supposed to do in the postseason. No less than 7 innings pitched in any game. 2 shutout outings in the World Series. I mean, who else better deserves MVP if the Muck Dogs come out on top in 7 than the guy that was directly responsible for 2 of the wins? What a wonderful performance there. 112 pitch gem. Pidge's Pedro had a good game. He went 5, gave up 1. Pitch count got a little out of hand on him with the 3 walks in there. Had a good game, just Spawn pitched better. Maddox came in relief. Plank came in after Maddox. Now, this Maddox decision is interesting because if I recall correctly, before this last sim, Maddox was lined up to be that Game 7 starter. And Walter Johnson was in the pen. And it looks like that changed. It looks like Maddox got thrown into the pen. And we'll go check Pidge's roster. But I would guess we'll see Walter Johnson into a rotation. And that's exactly what we do see. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong team. No, I'm looking at the right team. So he's got Walter Johnson and Spawn to choose from for Game 7. That's a tough choice. I mean, both pitchers are very good. It's not like the Muck Dogs are giving you a look that tells you that you have to go one way or the other. So I don't envy Pidge having to decide whether I'm going to rest my hopes of getting a perfect league title on Spawn or Johnson. That's a tough call. Wow. So as far as whatever he does do, whether it's Walter, Spawn, or some combination of the two, he's got afforded to him Mariano Rivera and Hoffman, both well-rested. David Price, the best arm in the league versus left. And then Randy Johnson there. Johnson can still pitch. 77%. And let's jump to Muck Dogs before he has to lock in. So his rotation would suggest that we'll see Walter here, but he does have the choice, if he wanted to audible to Greg Maddux. From a bullpen perspective, just about everyone's available. Only David Price is not. So just like Joe Madden in Game 7 in 2016 had a plan, he knew that he wanted to start Kyle Hendricks. He knew that he wanted to get to John Lester in the middle of that game, and he knew that he wanted to finish with Aroldis Chapman. If I'm one of these managers planning for this Game 7, I'm going to decide what my pathing is. I'm going to decide which arms I want in there, and then I'm going to use every mechanic within the game to make sure that it plays out that way. Whether I'm hiding someone that I definitely don't want to get in there, whether I'm force benching someone that I'd prefer not to get in there, whether I'm messing with the rolls to make sure it sequences the way that I want. So we are starting the sim. I do expect this to be the long sim. I expect that we won't see anything for 15 minutes. So let's everyone get comfortable here as we prepare for a final and deciding Game 7. So Pidge and Gen Xer, they have put their choices in. There's nothing they can do to change how this sim is going to play out. But we can look at what their choices were. So if it were me, and these were my choices, I would likely just run a Walter Johnson outing. I don't love the idea of pseudoing with a Plank or a Bumgarner, and with Glavine at only being 84%, I don't love the idea of pseudoing into Glavine there. So I feel like if I was Munster, I would have just rolled Walter, and then I would have tried to path my way to Hoffman with Glavine as my middle reliever. I likely would have taken... I think I'd probably take Pettit and Bumgarner off the table with a forced bench for each of them because I don't want to see them in this game. I'd rather see it go Walter and then Glavine and then Gagne Hoffman, and I'd take Feller off the table too. And then as we look over to Pidge, I'll tell you what I would have done there. So this is interesting. Like I was saying before he had to lock in, I don't envy him having to choose between Walter and Spawn. Now, Spawn does have fire. And as we've seen all series, the fire, even though people might tell you is not predictive, even though people might tell you it's just circumstantial, I've done enough of these broadcasts where I've seen a pretty heavy correlation between fire and production. So that actually would have weighed on my mind as I made that decision. But as you look at the two Munster lineups, if you throw out a righty, you get two same-side hitters. If you throw out a lefty, You get 3 same side hitters, even though it's Gwynn, Cobb, Connor. Man, that's a tough call. That's a real tough call. I think what I would have done is I would have gone Spawn for 9. So Spawn through the lineup 1 time. And then I would have gone Walter Johnson, long relief. And then after Walter Johnson's long relief, I would have hidden Randy. If I'm Pidge, I don't want to see Randy anywhere near this game. And then I would have had Price as a stopper. I mean, those numbers that I saw on Mo like makes it really hard for me to trust him. So maybe what I would have done is like Price and maybe Price and Mo as setups, and then Hoffman as a closer. But this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun to call the game because we won't know what has happened. It's going to be even more fun to look at that box score and see what the managers decided to do. But the game within the game is what interests me the most. You know, when given a suite of choices, how do you go about making your optimal one? At the end of the day, it's a dice roll. So maybe if Pidge does it optimally, he's got a 54% chance of winning. And if he does it non-optimally, he's got a 47%. So at the end of the day, the dice are still going to roll. And with those being the outcomes, you know, it can go either way on you. But I love seeing the decisions that are made based on the cards that are in front of you. But I hope for Pidge's benefit that we don't see Randy Johnson, because I think Randy in a Game 7 is a heart attack waiting to happen. Same thing can be said for Bob Feller, which Munster has a Bob Feller at 100%. Even though this Bob Feller had a 3.11 FIP and a 1.79 ERA during the year. Very good whip as well. It's an amazing line on him. 19 hits allowed in 40 innings for this fella. That's incredible. I don't think I've ever seen one that good before. Let's actually see. Let's see who the best feller I've ever seen is. I mean, besides you guys are all the best fellers I've ever seen. You guys willing to spend your Sunday night hanging out with me? All right, so these are all the fellers I've ever seen. Let's go ahead and whittle this down to just the last 5 years or so. And then let's go ahead and sort this baby by FIP. Yikes. Let's sort it the other way by FIP. All right. So you do see some ridiculously positive seasons here. I mean, these 3 seasons here that I'll highlight for you, these are all full season stats here. 67 innings, 78 innings out of a reliever. I mean, that's just unbelievable stuff there. Now, as you do look at this walks per 9 column, there's not a season where he's not a huge liability with the walks. The best we really see here is this 3.6 by Durham that he got last year. But if he's going to be striking out everyone, and if he's not going to be giving up any base runners, you can live with a 3.6. What you can't live with is like a 6.0. And I feel like I've had Bob Feller every season. I use me some Bob Feller, but I've always gotten a 5+ walk rate out of him. And I just hate that. I absolutely hate it. And as much as I hate it, I'm still deploying him. So it's not like I'm really doing anything. The one difference being this year, when Feller was such a train wreck in 12 innings that I never got back around to him. But Feller is he's a bit volatile, that's for sure. Let's go to our matchup analyzer and just see just how volatile he is. And nobody spoil in the chat if we find out who won. I know you can look at achievements, you can look at this, you can look at that. There are ways to figure it out, but for the high drama, please no one spoil it. All right, so here's Feller versus Wright. You see the walk per 9 approaching 5. You don't love that. Pretty exposed on the homer per 9 as well. But the K per 9 is almost double league average. That's pretty darn good. And then his whip, well below league average as well. And then when you go versus left, it's a different picture. I mean, the walks are really problematic here. Almost 7. Homer's still above league average. Strikeouts drop a ton. Goes all the way down to 10.9, which is still great, but not compared to his VR. And then the whip is problematic. Whip is problematic. So we're talking about the Munster Muck Dogs here. So the season that he got out of him is, by my count, really the 9th best season I've seen out of Feller. It's pretty darn good. What do you want me to smile about, Simple? What am I missing over here? I think I'm missing a joke right now. Sim still cooking along. But once it comes back, we're going to bring you Game 7 of the 2052 Perfect League World Series. And either the Muck Dogs or the Pigeons are going to boast a Perfect League championship logo. Oh. I don't think you can tie in Game 7. Mr. Bob Feller. Let's go ahead and sleuth around some league leaderboards and see what cards are really tearing up the Perfect League. You can see if you don't have Tony Gwynn, you're not going to win the batting title. That much we pretty much can say is fact. I'd be curious to see if I've got any sample size on some of the new cards that came out. Let's see if we got some Juan Soto data. Here's some Juan Soto. So Juan Soto in your bottom right here. So that's the yikes. This Soto sample is pretty trashy. It's a VR heavy sample here. He hit some bombs, but 200, 282 on the average OBP is kind of gross. Let's see if someone threw out some Shane Bieber. Looks like no. DJ LeMahieu, maybe? No DJ LeMahieu. Surprised to see Dan Brothers still in here. Look at those numbers. Holy cow. 895 OPS versus Wright in a very small sample. DH only. I mean, shoot, look at his versus left. Who the heck is running Dan Brothers? Let's find out. So Dan Brothers in just the past 3 seasons. And here's that sample that we have. The Collingwood Magpies played him every day. And he blew up. 900 OPS. That's crazy. 644 plate appearances of rock solid bat. And he's the only person who's used him for 3 years. The problem with deploying brothers is who are you going to sit? Chuck calling it scary good. Maybe he is scary good. I've got a Dan Brothers. Let's see when the last time my Dan Brothers made it into a game was. I wonder if I've deactivated him. Yeah, it looks like I have. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. That's for sure. Here's a better way to see my Dan Brothers. Here's what I got out of Dan. I never got a single season as good as what he just showed you there. What is this? 7 seasons of partial play. Really only 3 full-time seasons. Good player nonetheless. I mean, if we go back in our time machine and we look at, say, the first 3 seasons of this game, he's probably around here. Here, Dan Brothers. So way back when, he was the 10th best hitter by OPS. Look at Ed Delahanty. Delahanty was so darn good. 906. Jackie, Roger. It's amazing that Tris Speaker and Roger have stood the test of time so well, while everyone else here has really fallen on hard times. Delahanty completely unusable. Jackie, he's more of like a vanilla option now. He'll steal some bases. He'll not kill you with the bat. Won't kill you with the glove, but he's not really a standout at anything. Medwick, completely unusable, and he was an absolute monster. George Brett, completely usurped by another George Brett card. King Kelly, unusable. Look at Torriente here. Here's your kidney's best friend, Cristobal Torriente. With that huge BABIP number. Playing big early on. And then let's take the next 3 seasons and see what evolved. Would you look at that? All of a sudden, we got a Cap Anson special edition card. We got a Ted Williams special edition card. And we started to actually see Tris Speaker falling down the rankings a bit. Kidney's asking how Yogi's looking. You asking how he's looking today, or you asking how he's looking in our time machine as we are going through the past? Pidge saying the Sim's killing him. Sim's killing everyone, man. You're either going to be a champion or you're going to be a bridesmaid. Kidney's asking about Yogi. Let's get him some Yogi stats. There's my Yogi. So this is Yogi combined. Versus right and versus left in your bottom right corner. So 651 OPS, negative bat value. Let's just isolate the versus right because that's how you deploy him. He's a 710. 710. I mean, the plate appearance is really small. Everyone's really going Mauer. So what we'll do is we'll toggle the 2. So Joe Mauer, 750 OPS, basically a neutral bat versus right. Whereas Yogi, 710. And I can't recall who has better defense between Mauer and Yogi. I think it's Mauer. I thought it was Mauer. but I could be wrong. And the big difference here being Mauer's at 330 on base, Yogi's at 294. So if you can choose, and a lot of people can't, a lot of people need to decide where they're going to deploy their perfect points. And Yogi is a whole lot more affordable than Mauer. I would guess Yogi's, someone correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I would guess Yogi's somewhere between 10 and 15. And then I would guess Mauer's around 50 or 60. So if you had to choose, is there a better place for you to spend that delta? Probably. Dead even defensively. And look at Crash in the chat. Just got 15,000 perfect points from Dish. That's a good night. Grubhub coming early. Man, everything's turning up, Crash. So are we at 18 minutes that we've been waiting for this sim? I think we're there. It's either 18 minutes or 3. It definitely feels like I've been yakking for more than 3. So the sim should come in. It's normally right around now that it pops up. And then we get to jump in and see what happened in Game 7. Now tonight we have the luxury of not knowing who won. Thanks, Crash. Thanks so much for the bits, buddy. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so Pidge, this is an every week venture. And honestly, we fill the time differently every week. And this time was more of a deep dive. Last week was my Academy Awards speech where I was thanking those that had helped me. So I wouldn't say that we have a go-to plan yet on the broadcast to eat up 15 to 20 minutes. But we normally follow the data. Figure out what's interesting to look at. One thing that was bothering me, and I feel comfortable saying this because the price isn't super inflated anymore. And I'll be completely honest, I paid $500K for this card. But Andy Pettitte, who you can now grab for $150K, just is not producing like I thought he would. Hey, API, man. Thanks for the love. Appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, this Pettitte card, it's not very good. It's not very good. So as you look at the combined, and so the split is multiple items, this is VL and VR. The FIP's above league average, well above it. The walks aren't that great. 2.8 versus a league average of 3.2. Slightly above average on the homers. Not striking anybody out. And then as you look at him versus left and say, okay, you know what, Chris? He's only struggling because he's facing so many right-hand batters. If you just put him in a good spot, he's going to dominate. He's not dominating lefties. Walks come way down. FIP's pretty good. Homers down. The whip's terrible. 147 versus your strong side in 200 innings. That's terrible. He's not a Maddox clone. Those of you that were joining me on that Thursday when we unveiled the Maddox, or the Pettitte, I showed you guys how he was just a couple points off of being the reverse Maddox. He is not playing that way. Kidney's dropping the knowledge that he's not playing that way because he's a lefty. And it's harder. If Maddox were a lefty, he would not be as good. It's probably the easiest way to say it. If Maddox were a lefty with the identical numbers that he has from a ratings perspective, he would not put up the same quality production that he does today. So this Pettitte card is a disappointment to me. And I think and I won't fully point the finger at him, but I think he's probably 10% of the reason, maybe 15% of the reason that I got relegated this week was because I was starting a pitcher that I thought was better than he really is. So we know that I run the same park that Pidge runs. And so as you look at my numbers here, lefties should do pretty well in my park. Glavin, slightly disappointing. The 4.39 on the ERA. Spawn was great in my park. Pettitte, 5.9 ERA. And yeah, the FIP's better. So maybe this is just a bad sample. 58 bad innings. Bad luck. Call it what you will. But this is really disappointing. His BABIP, really high, 325 at home. So maybe there's some merit to it just being a bad sample. Chuck asking about Mr. Schoolboy Rowe. There's definitely some Schoolboy in perfect. Let's take a look at him. So there's Schoolboy as a starter. I'll give you that split. So you see the FIP's above league average, the WHIP's well above league average, K's are low, walk slightly below league average. Gives up too many dingers. Ooh, Tech. A negative WAR Cobb? That's bad. That's real bad. I don't think I've ever had a negative WAR Cobb. Now, my Cobb this year was my worst I've ever had. 738 OPS, 1.8 WAR. He's DH, so he's not going to get any. All right, Pidge. All right, Gen Xer. One of you is winning a title here. Uh-oh. Wouldn't load the file. We've got a problem. Let's hope we can get in now. This would be a real bad time for a server problem. Looks like we're coming in. Oh, man, I'm juiced for this one, guys. Muck Dogs versus Pidge. Who is going to take it all? Game 7. Here we go. What did people do with their pitching? All right. Muck Dogs. They're throwing Walter Johnson. Pidge throwing 7 lefties. His traditional versus right lineup. As we look at the Muck Dog lineup, we see 4 lefties, 4 righties, and Ozzy. Game 7 is underway. Walter Johnson will start versus Ty Cobb. He's fallen behind in the count, 3-1. Line in the pitch. Grounder to second. Fielded. Throw across. 1 away. So the Muck Dogs retire Cobb to start the game. Bottom 2. So we see here, it looks at least likely that Pidge started Spawn. Either that or he started Walter, and Walter's already out of the game. I'm going to go ahead and guess that he started Spawn. And he's now facing the Muck Dogs Hank Aaron here with 1 away in the second. Wind in the pitch. That ball belted! Deep right field. It's not going to go, but it's going to the wall. That's an easy double. Will he try for 3? And he does. Doesn't hesitate at all. Gets to third with a sliding in triple. Hank Aaron puts the Muck Dogs in scoring position. That's going to bring up Joe Mauer. Mauer versus right. As we also toggle Walter Johnson versus left. Neutral matchup here. Let's see if Mauer can break a tie game early in Game 7. Infield in, the pitch. Ball gets away from the catcher. In comes the runner, and he will score. The Muck Dogs take the lead on a wild pitch, and Hank Aaron trots to the plate. 1-0 lead for the Muck Dogs in the second. We fast forward to the third. Muck Dogs still at the plate. Rogers Hornsby versus Walter Johnson. Hornsby versus right. Walter versus right. Advantage pitcher. 0-1 count. 1 away. The pitch. That ball's crushed. Deep right field. You can forget about it. Rogers Hornsby makes it a 2-0 Muck Dog lead in Game 7 of the 2052 Perfect League World Series. We go top 5 now. Pidge looking to even the score or at least cut the lead in half. And he's facing the Muck Dogs, Walter Johnson. And he's got Ty Cobb at the plate. Nobody out and Ozzie Smith on first. You love it when Ozzie gets on base to lead off an inning and really stretch that lineup. 2-2 count the pitch. Grounder to second. Field it. To second for 1. Over to first. Double play. Crushing double play off the bat of Ty Cobb. Erasing the rally in the inning. Now we're top 5, and we've got Tris Speaker at the plate, facing Walter Johnson still. Tony Gwynn on second, representing the first Pidge run. 2-2 pitch. That ball's crushed deep center field. It's going to get down and go to the wall. Gwynn comes around third. He will score. Tris Speaker on his way to third. He'll have a standing tree. He's going to try to score. He's on his way home. It's inside the Parker. Tris Speaker inside the park home run to tie the game here in the 5th inning. Holy cow. What a game 7 already, and we're not even through 6. We go bottom 6 now. Pidge has tied the game. We'll try to hold it there. He's facing the muck dog, Willie Mays. Willie Mays versus Wright. Walter Johnson versus Wright are on your matchup analyzer. Tony Gwynn on first. The pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. 2 away now. Same inning for Hammer and Hank. We know Hank is a great hitter, but he's not as effective versus the same side. Hank Aaron versus Wright. The on-base percentage dips below 300. The slugging well down as well. He's got 2 outs here, and Roger Connor on first. The pitch. Up the middle. Base hit. Gwynn will hold at second, and that's a 2-out single for Hank Aaron, extending this 6th inning and making Walter Johnson work that much harder. That brings up Joe Mauer, and he's already worked himself a 3-0 count. The wind and the pitch. He walked him. They're loaded now. We have got a moment here in Game 7. Bases loaded. Cal Ripken at the plate with an opportunity to blow this baby wide open, but he's caught in a tough matchup. Thanks for the follow, Ludwig. And Cal Ripken comes to the plate with some really rough splits versus right-hand pitching. As you see here, Cal's triple split is 214, 278, 364. And Walter definitely very strong versus right-handed batters. But this is a big moment here in Game 7. Emotions running high on both sides of the field. The 1-0 count. Johnson sets and delivers. Ripken rifles it into right field. 1 run will score. Here comes the second. He's going to try to score, and he's in there standing. Make it a 4-2 lead for the Muck Dogs as Cal Ripken proves to be an unlikely hero early on in Game 7. Unbeknownst to the highlight reel, the Muck Dogs add 3 more runs, making it a 7-2 lead. And now it's time for Pidge to claw back. It's time for him to claw back into this game. He's got 2 runners to start him off. Base runners are the most important asset when you're chasing 5. And he's facing Madison Bumgarner. So Bumgarner versus left. And we've got Ty Cobb at the plate. Base runners over everything else right now if you're Mr. Pidge. 0-2 count on Cobb. Bumgarner comes set and delivers. That ball's rifled down the right field line and into the corner. 2 runs will score. Cobb on his way to second. He'll make it. He's going to try for third. No, he'll hold. Takes a long turn and thought better of it. The 5-run lead now cut down to 3. And that's going to do it for Pidge in the top of the inning. We now go bottom 7. The Munster Muck Dogs look to add more insurance runs. And they'll try to do so off of Trevor Hoffman. So we'll load up some Trevor versus Wright. And we'll load up some Hank Aaron versus Wright. Advantage to the pitcher for sure. 2-2 count the pitch. That ball's hit well into the right center field gap, and it's going to go all the way to the wall. Center fielder gives chase and has it. Won't be able to stop another run from scoring, and Hank Aaron's got a sliding triple, extending the lead to 8-4. The champagne is being uniced in the Muck Dog locker room. Make it 10-4. Fast forward to the top of the 9th. Pidge needs base runners, and he needs them in a hurry. Madison Bumgarner still on the hill, and he's got 1 out left before the Muck Dogs are your 2052 World Series champions. The pitch to Gwynn. Grounder to short. Takes the short play to second, and that's going to do it, folks. The Munster Muck Dogs are your 2052 Perfect League World Series champions, winning in 7 over Pigeons. A 10-4 win, driven on the back of some big middle innings. Congratulations to Gen Xer 69. Thanks, Mac Jack, for the love. I can't talk tonight. As we look at the box score, Pidge went 6 batters with Warren Spahn and then turned it over to Walter Johnson, and Johnson just didn't have it. Johnson went 4 1/3. He walked 4, he gave up 4 hits, he gave up 6 earned, and a big dinger. And if that wasn't enough, the bullpen failed him from there. Trevor Hoffman came in and gave up 3 more runs. And only David Price could really quiet the problem. On the Munster side of the fence, you had Walter go 6, give you 6 solid innings, quality start. Didn't strike anyone out, but he danced around 8 base runners in 6 innings. Turned it over to Madison Bumgarner, who was in a more of a mop-up type role, and he was able to pick up the final 9 outs without giving up too much damage. So, sorry to Pidge. You made it to Game 7 of the World Series. You come back next week and make sure you win yours. Congratulations to Gen Xer 69. Very impressive win. A hard-fought win. And one of the things about this series that I find interesting is that the road team did not win a game. Muck Dogs took Game 1 and 2. Resoundingly, 4-1 and 7-0. And then Pidge took all 3 in his park. 3-0, 4-3, 6-4. And then Muck Dogs evened the series with an absolute gem by Warren Spahn. And then won it, as you saw, in Game 7. And as predicted, Warren Spahn is your World Series MVP for the Munster Muck Dogs. So let me go ahead and appropriately give the Muck Dogs their Games 6 and 7, as I always forget to do. But what a series. Love it when they go 7. I completely understand that those in it do not love that. But I think it makes for a much more enjoyable watch for all of us bystanders. What a World Series. Yep, Chuck. I am back in the DLL next week. I'll see you in the World Series. Well, guys, that is going to do it for us tonight for our Perfect League World Series coverage. 2052 goes to the Munster Muck Dogs. They get their 8-inch crystalline trophy, and they earned it in a hard-fought battle with the Pigeontown Pigeons. Both of these teams will be back in Perfect League next week. We'll see if either of them can make it back to the World Series. Now, importantly, this is my final Perfect League World Series for the time being. I was relegated, which means I do not have access to it for next week. So, this is me signing off, not just for this week, but until we get back to the Perfect League. So, hopefully Nomad Nation out there is rooting for me, and we can get through the DLL, which is an absolute meat grinder. I don't expect to be able to turn around in 1 week and be right back in the perfect league, but crazier things have happened. But I want to thank everyone who was a regular attendee of these broadcasts. I want to thank those of you that showed up today. If this was your first time with me, please drop me a follow, click the notification bell so that you know when we go live. And also check out our other streams. On Tuesday, we do Reading Between the Lineups, where we talk to the various big personas within our Discord community. Had Chris Jardine on last week. We're going to have Simple Hunter on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, we go through the new content on our This Week in Perfect Team show. So that's going to do it, guys. Thanks again for hanging out. But on behalf of Out of the Park, on behalf of all the players in the Perfect League, on behalf of anyone I can even speak on their behalf of, congratulations to the Munster Muck Dogs, and go get them next week. Pigeon Town Pigeons. And this is DRC, signing off.